500 million years ago. The microcontinent was situated near the equator. The Western scientists called it Kazakhstania. The structure with almost full list of elements from the Mendeleev's table inside its depth. What secrets does Kazakhstan soil have? How rich is it? Natural resources are the history of our land for thousands of years.
Water is the source of life. We are all used to this phrase, being an axiom or even banality. But how much does it actually reflect the true planetary significance of a substance with a simple chemical formula H2O? Today's scientists, armed with data from research, space probes come to the conclusion that our neighbors, Mars and Venus, once in the past also possessed oceans and huge water reserves. But as it turned out, all the planets with water on their surface are very fragile. Therefore, Venus could not keep its oceans, and it evaporated into space. Mars had lost most of its water and turned into a dry and cold desert. And life that is familiar to our comprehension now exists only on Earth, which is practically impregnated with water. It is everywhere. It falls from sky, rages in oceans and seas, feeds lakes, rivers, and it also lurks deep in the bowels of our planet.
Советский ученый Карпинский в свое время сказал, полезный ископаемый номер один – это вода.
Soviet scientist Karpinski once said that #1 mineral is water. Other minerals are not replenished. Look at iron, coal, even oil, it is not replenished. It was once created, and when time comes, it will finish. When and how did water appear on our planet? Scientists argue about this for a long time. Most people believe that it was brought on Earth nearly 4 billion years ago from outer space. That time, planet was still being formed and was under constant meteoric fire. The so-called wet asteroids fell on the young Earth. It contained steam, liquid, and ice. However, more recently, Japanese researchers had a different theory. Water appeared on our planet. Geologists from the Tokyo Institute of Technology say that the early Earth had a thick hydrogen atmosphere that interacted with oxygen that was in the Earth's mantle. And as a result, the water appeared on the planet in large quantities. Since its inception, life began to develop and accumulate on the planet. This also applies to the evolution of biological species, to formation of the Earth's surface itself, and to the formation of mineral reserves. After millions of years of transformation, the territory where modern Kazakhstan is located has appeared in the center of the Eurasian continent. It is located thousands of kilometers away from the oceans and outer seas. And that is why the water world of Kazakhstan is unique. If we consider the hydro resources of our country in a general cycle, then glaciers become a big bonus for some regions of Kazakhstan. Glaciers were formed around 1.5 million years ago in period of the Paleozoic era. At that time, such favorable conditions for the birth of glaciers as the terrain on which it can settle, the low temperature and the precipitation in the form of snow appeared.
У нас весь северный Тянь-Шань, то есть предгорье Таласского, Алатау, Киргизского хребта,
There are glaciers in the northern Tian Shan, in the foothills of the Talas Alatau, in the Taraz and Shymkent areas. There are a large pool of glaciers towards Khan Tengri. These are the Kyrgyz ridges. Teske Alatau is a very large knot of glaciation. Jungar Alatau is one of the largest knots of glaciation on the territory of Kazakhstan. It is a system of ridges, which sometimes erroneously refers to Tian Shan, but in fact it is an independent mountainous country. Well, more than this, Altai and one of the spurs of the Altai Mountains are sour. That means that it is all southwest part of Kazakhstan. Jungar Alatau is the glacial fount of the country. 1,369 glaciers occupy an area of 1,000 square kilometers. More than 850 square kilometers of the Tian Shan is bound by permafrost. Khan Tengri, which is one of the highest mountain peaks in Kazakhstan, located here. Without taking into account the ice cover, its height is almost 7,000 meters. For the first time, Khan Tengri was mentioned in Chinese chronicles 1,200 years ago. Many legends and beliefs of the Proto-Turkic who professed Tengrianism associated with this name. The tribes that inhabited the territory of Kazakhstan in the past believed that the supreme deity of Tengri should live closer to the sky on top of the world. For them, this summit was a mountain peak that was looking to the sky and had regular tetrahedral shape. In translation from the ancient Turkic, Khan Tengri means the Lord of Heaven. Peak Khan Tengri gave spiritual energy to ancient people. The glaciers of Kazakhstan's highlands are not only sources of food for rivers, but also huge natural reservoirs of clean, fresh water.
В ледниках существует, так сказать, масса обмена. То есть тот лед, который образуется из снега верхней части ледника лет через...
There is mass transferring in glaciers. That ice, which was formed of snow at the top of the glacier, after 200 or 300 years, reaches the end of the glacier.
Такого
Their conditions are more soft, and ice starts to melt.
не существует, хотя,
Long-term storage of ice does not occur,
конечно,
although water vault formations may be found in solid ice.
ледники тают,
Of course, glaciers are melting, and old column is melting, changing in size and in volume.
площади, так и по объему.
But there were periods when the glaciers were much smaller than they are now.
Ледники были гораздо меньше, чем сейчас.
To make glaciers useful for humans and avoid any threat, Kazakhstan pays special attention on its study. One of the oldest in the Republic, the Research Institute of Geography compiled a catalog of glaciers of the country. Specialists who study glaciers are glaciologists. They are carrying out research, observing the life of glaciers, the nature of their movement and melting. According to scientists, close attention to it is not accidental. Glaciers give not only scarce, useful, clean, and fresh water. During its study, people can predict climate change in the region and protect themselves from emergency situations of nature.
Каждые 10 дней делаем снегосъемку, когда приходит теплый период.
When the warm period comes and the snow begins to melt, we make snow survey every 10 days. At first, we check the maximum snow accumulation in order to know the mass balance. Then we get the mass balance of a glacier. It consists of the balance of the winter and summer balance. Maximum is the snow accumulation. During summertime, the ice and snow begins to melt. Rails that were set before started to melt. Rails are set in 3 meters into the ice, and the constant monitoring of the markings on the rail is needed. Annually, geodetic survey is made, based on which height of the surface level and the movement of the glacier are fixed, and the process has always to be kept under control. During all summer time, we're checking and setting rails. Sometimes upper part of the glacier melts, sometimes lower.
То на языке рейка вытает, то и где-нибудь наверху.
total estimated water reserves of Kazakhstan are 539 cubic kilometers. Our country ranks 9th in the world in terms of territory. However, water resources are quite scarce. Therefore, the correct use of natural wealth is one of the serious tasks for the domestic science. According to scientists, there are 39,000 rivers in Kazakhstan, but most of them are small. There are 7 large rivers: Ural, Sirdarya, Ili, Irtysh, Tobol, Ishim and Chu, are used for water supply to settlements, irrigation, and some for electricity generation.
Казахстан имеет огромную территорию. Рельеф
Kazakhstan has a huge territory. The relief of Kazakhstan, the natural conditions are most favorable in the mountainous parts, where a large amount of precipitation falls, which flow in the form of streams, rivers, springs, and replenish underground water. Underground waters and rivers on the surface are interconnected on Earth.
на земле.
In ancient times, the man began to use water for his needs. On the territory of Kazakhstan, the inhabitants of the most ancient proto-cities, with the help of various technologies, subordinated to themselves the water element. The traces of the irrigation system of water supply were found at Talhis hillfront. This settlement scientists refer to 2 to 3 centuries of AC. It was located in the foothills of the Trans-Ili Alatau, and this is precisely that determines its uniqueness. And from the point of view of archaeology and from the point of view of hydrogeology, even today, Almaty is fed by 4 main mountain rivers: Small Almaty River, Kargaly, and Aksai.
Часть воды, которая раньше терялась за счет бетонирования, она не теряется, уходит вниз по течению, но это, к сожалению, негативно.
Part of the water, which was previously lost due to concrete, is not losing now and is going downstream. But this, unfortunately, has a negative impact on groundwater resources, because the loss through the channel was allowed to resume those underground sources that are used for water supply of the city. After all, if we look at the water supply of the urban area, we have about 25% of the water that comes from sources on the surface. That is about 23% of the river Almaty Ulken, Big Almaty River, across the Big Almaty Lake, and the rest of the Almaty Kazakh, Small Almaty River. 75% are underground springs.
75% это подземный источник.
Of course, not all rivers of our country have the same character. For example, the area Zayelisk Alatau, where precipitation falls about 2,000 millimeters a year, is famous because of stormy rivers. If you move to the lowlands, towards the Balkhash Lake, the precipitation becomes much less. During summer, respectively, the water level in the rivers decreases, it becomes shallow. But there are facts that seem surprising, but quite understandable from the point of view of science.
Зато подземные воды, которые имеют гидравлическую связь с этими поверхностными водами, начинают...
By the way, groundwaters, which are hydraulically connected to surface waters, begin to give its waters to the river. And so many rivers, for example, in Aktobe region, never dry out, because there are deep stretches where the fish inhabits, and underground water moves between stretches. That's why the water is always clean, fresh, and fish is surviving. That is a big difference between our rivers of lowland areas, especially in western Kazakhstan. The wealth of groundwater is important to the country. Kazakhstan has unusual healing springs, and all because of life-giving moisture that is an excellent solvent that passes through the layers of the Earth's crust. Incidentally, absorbs all kinds of salts and trace elements. For example, on the north of the country, thermal waters with sulfate hydrocarbonate sodium composition prevail. There are sources with iodine, bromine, and calcium sodium composition. The east is rich with thermal springs, enriched with magnesium and sodium. In the south of the republic, radon, nitrogen, and hydrocarbonate springs are being beaten from the ground. As a result, there are various health resorts appeared on all these sources today. Modern medicine actively uses mineral water for the treatment and prevention of a variety of diseases.
В каждой воде, минеральной воде, существует определенный набор ионов, солей ионов,
There is a certain set of ions and salt of ions, trace elements, various gases in each mineral water.
ионы хлора.
Our water has ions of chlorine, calcium, sodium in sufficient concentrations that is necessary for therapeutic purposes.
Для использования с лечебной целью есть компоненты йода.
There are components of iodine within the permissible concentration and silicic acid.
Уникальность каждого иона
Accordingly, the uniqueness of each ion has an effect on the body. It means that mineral water is used mainly for diseases of the gastrointestinal profile, diseases of the cardiovascular system and metabolic processes.
заболевания обменных процессов.
The general therapeutic treatment is also shown. According to the latest data, it can be used for locomotor disorders.
Двигательные заболевания и прочие.
Geothermal springs are another amazing kind of underground water. Some of it have temperature that reaches 100 degrees. This is due to the fact that water lies in the deepest strata of the Earth's crust. It is known that as close to the core of the planet is, the higher temperature is. At the same time, the higher the temperature of the source is, the greater is its mineralization. Geologists suggest that most of the thermal waters have volcanic origin. Thus, Chunja Resort is located between the Ketmun Mountains and the valley of the Ili River. According to scientists, many millions of years ago, there was a huge volcano raging here. Its hollow reached 8 kilometers, and it is the extinct volcano that today gives hot power to the water, and that in turn has a healing effect to people. Deposits of thermal waters break even through the earth pierced with urban technology, through pipelines and concrete foundations. So that's how, in the suburbs of Almaty, a warm spring suddenly came to blow from a well that was drilled to produce ordinary water.
В нашем источнике ходит очень много легенд, но самые достоверные.
There are many legends about our source, but the most reliable probably is that in the early 80s, even in the Soviet era, a motor depot was planned to build on our territory. A company of builders arrived and started drilling a well. At a depth of 600 meters, the water that is still flowing here was found. The water temperature in the borehole was 35 degrees, and accordingly, our builders and drivers were all happy that it is possible to use and wash cars in the autumn and winter. But unfortunately, on summer of next year, the machines began to rust. There was corrosion. It turned out that this water has a completely unique composition. After studying it, the specialists found out it's saturated with fluoride, iodine, sodium, calcium, and zinc. Now, after detailed research and medical conclusions, the water of the source serves to treat a number of ailments. In addition, thermal springs can be used for the heating system. True, the water of not every field has a sufficient temperature. It's a whole other thing, is the Zharkent Artesian Basin, the Zharkensk Depression. There are very interesting prospects, which have been known since the middle of the last century. Wells were drilled for hydrocarbon raw materials to search for oil and gas, and then a very interesting result was obtained. Oil and gas were not found, but rather large reserves of thermal waters were found. The capabilities and reserves of water, as modern research shows, are virtually limitless. Under the layers of earth, clay, and sand, huge deposits of minerals are hidden. It is invisible to the eye because it is hidden in water. The territory of Kazakhstan has large reserves of industrial waters. It has natural origin and contains lithium, rubidium, cesium, strontium, bromine, iodine, boron, potassium, and germanium. For example, lithium is used to make anodes of chemical power sources such as batteries. This component is indispensable in electronics. It is also used in metallurgy, nuclear power engineering, and even in medicine.
В Казахстане в свое время были проведены работы по изучению этих промышленных подземных вод, тематические научно-исследовательские работы. Выявлено 3 провинции. Это
Research work was carried out to study these industrial groundwater in Kazakhstan. Thematic and research work identified 3 provinces: the Caspian region, Mangistau-Sturt, and Sarasup province.
йод, бром.
Here, underground waters containing rubidium, cesium, germanium, strontium, iodine, bromine, boron, and other components that are useful and well demanded on the market.
Различные технологии извлечения этих полезных компонентов.
There are various technologies for extracting these useful components in the world practice.
Промышленных подземных вод заключается в утилизации.
One of the problems of using these industrial groundwater is the utilization of industrial effluents that are formed after use.
В Казахстане существует уже.
But Kazakhstan has already made some work that is related to the fact that industrial wastes are buried after use and pumped into deep aquifers, where it would have been sealed for ages.
Закачивать в глубокие водоносные горизонты, где они были бы, как бы запечатаны на века.
Water is not only a renewable natural resource. As the experience of mankind shows, water is an inexhaustible source of knowledge. People have long talked about the properties of water. It was deified, it was credited with a magical miracle force, and on the contrary, accused in the ability to destroy. It is interesting that even today, researchers are inspired by the water for discoveries. Scientists put forward versions that sometimes seem fantastic. Kazakhstan's biophysicist Viktor Inyushin has been proving the theory of living water for several years. Studying the impact of consequences of nuclear tests on the state of water, the scientists came to the conclusion that it has memory.
И что мы обнаружили? Оказывается, вода состоит не только из H2O, то есть 2 атомов водорода и 1 атома кислорода.
And what did we find? It turns out that water consists not only of H2O, that is 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. It also consists of plasma, not only of ions, molecules, but also from plasma. What is plasma? This is the 5th state of matter. This substance is similar to the substance of the Sun, but at the temperatures that exist on Earth. We are talking about the cold plasma. The fact is that when we plunged into the world of living water, that is intracellular water, it turned out that hydroplasm plays a huge role there. It creates stability to our water. After all, 80% of our body consists of water. As if the water deteriorates, it will become defective, so we get sick. Professor Inyushin is sure that many modern technogenic factors affect the quality of water. The achievements of technology and science, with which we're proud, carry a hidden threat. Water remembers everything that happened to it for many years. The scientist and his associates made an attempt to clean the memory of the polluted water, to restore it the life-giving force. And according to Viktor Inyushin, the attempt turned out to be successful. In the laboratory, an installation has been created that restores, or if one can say so, cleans the water matrix. Scientists call such water biogenic. Nature accumulated its forces during millions of years in the bowels, on the surface and high in the mountains. It nourishes all life on the planet. It has a special value in the center of the Eurasian continent in the territory of Kazakhstan. Water resources here are unevenly distributed and for some regions of the country are very scarce. But the hidden potential and potential of the resources of the water world of the country give it an inexhaustible scope for innovation and scientific discoveries.